Hello, Amanda. Let some of these young women in here real quick. Hmm.
Hi, how are you?
Doing well. Whitney, it's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Just got an audio from Willow. She speaks very highly of you.
She's very kind. She's the best, so that means a lot.
All right, let's go ahead and get your cameras turned on, ladies, and we'll go ahead and get started. All right. Well, Amanda, first of all, thank you for spending this time with us today. It's just basically we're going to ask you a bunch of questions and we want to hear about who you are. These young women will have some questions as well. And I don't really like to read anybody's bio. I'd prefer if you just told us who you were.
All right, sounds good. So my name's Amanda Leve. I'm now 28 years old. But I started jiu-jitsu when I was 11 years old, and then I fought professionally for like MMA when I was 21 for my first fight. Um, but I have always loved jujitsu. It gave me like this avenue of being able to like travel and push myself like mentally and physically. I was always like an athletic kid, so I kind of just like naturally went into it. Um, but I live in Philadelphia. I unfortunately had to stop at fighting MMA because of like a health issue, which was very upsetting to me. We can get into that. And then I still compete in jiu-jitsu. I'm taking a little break now because I'm pregnant, but I hope to get back to it soon. So yeah, that's about it.
First of all, congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you.
So let's rewind a little bit. Like, what pulled you into martial arts in the first place, and when did you realize it was more than just a hobby?
So my dad was very anti-bullying. Like he would always tell me when I was like growing up, he was like, if you ever see anyone get bullied, he's like, you better go up to that bully. Um, so he like was always like that to begin with. And then I was an athletic kid, so my dad would watch UFC and he was like, oh my gosh, Amanda would be so good at this because I was like a weirdo. I would do push-ups during commercial breaks, like sit-ups during commercial breaks. And so I did my first class and I loved it and stayed with it. He like threw me in my first competition, but I was like 4 months in, so I had no idea what I was doing. I lost my first match. I cried. I wanted to go home. And I lost it in like 15 seconds too. Like not even like it was a fight by any means. And he was like, please just stay for one more match. And I did. And I won my next one. And I guess like the feeling of just getting your hand raised and like accomplishing something like that, like it was just like a solo sport. So, the solo aspect of it, like it's not just a team, it's mostly you out there, was really something that drew me to it, especially like again, because you just feel the whole accomplishment when you win. So yeah, and then I just stuck with it ever since.
What was your first experience walking into a gym like that? Was it like mostly men in there? Was it like a mixed setting? What did that look like?
Yeah, so I started at a place with kids, but it was mostly boys. And then it was ended up being too far away, so my parents sent me to another gym, but then in the other gym and all the gyms leading up to where I'm at now, I was the only girl and only kid in an adult class full of men, which is like so crazy because you go to tournaments now, you see little girls everywhere. And they're so talented now too. It's so crazy. But like when I grew up, I had to fight boys all the time, like um it wasn't the same, so it was crazy to just be a kid in the in a class full of adult men now looking back on it. But I'm like in a new gym now and there's only one other girl that trains with us and she's not even there consistently, so I'm still the only girl.
That's I imagine that that's a weird scenario just being and it seems like a male dominated sport, but then I know my son goes to jujitsu and he sometimes is one of few boys in there and it's a bunch of young girls and I see how intimidated he is um rolling around with these young girls and he's so much bigger than them and it's fun to watch how gentle he can be and how aggressive these young girls are and that they don't give up even though, he's he's the size that he is.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, again, it's cool just to see how much it's grown in the last 10 years. Um, just like for women's pay too. Like now, like there was a tournament, the biggest tournament you can compete in. The girls were still only getting half the pay. Like the last 2 years, they just changed it. So now it's like equal pay for the guys and the girls, which is crazy. And yeah, and it's cool too. Just again, like now you don't see the girls go against the boys as much because now there's enough girls to have like an actual girls division.
That is really cool. So you competed in jujitsu at the highest level. What transitioned you into MMA?
So I saw my first MMA fight, women's MMA fight when I was 13. And it was like the biggest one yet. It was this woman called her name was Chris Cyborg and this other woman, Gina Carano. And my dad like made a big deal out of it. We like sat on the couch, we got food, we watched it. And like after that, I was like, oh, I definitely want to do that. That's exactly what I want to be when I grow up. So then 13 on, I just everything I did was to be an MMA fighter. Like I'm just lucky that I was always great at jiu-jitsu, so I could always do that in the meantime. And you can't fight MMA till you're 18. Um, so I just competed in jiu-jitsu competitively, basically my whole life. I still do. And once I was 18, I like really focused on MMA. But then it was hard to get like MMA fights because girls would see like my amateur or would see my jiu-jitsu matches online. And the amateur girls would be like, oh, I don't want to fight her. She's too experienced in jiu-jitsu. So I had to go pro pretty quickly. I only had 3 amateur fights and then I went pro. But the whole like transition too, it's just so different. MMA is like the stakes are so much higher. You can get hurt so much more easily. You can literally get knocked out. So I like the high stakes of it, and I think that's why what really drew me to it too. Like the more danger, I guess. I don't know if I'm an adrenaline junkie or what, but the more danger is just, it was like more exciting to me, especially when you compete in jiu-jitsu for so long. Like something different, I think, is also just like switching it up makes a difference. But the training is just so much harder. You have to be so much more well-rounded with striking, kickboxing, wrestling, and jiu-jitsu. So it's not just one discipline. And I think that was really cool because that was just like challenging to overcome, like being good at one thing, but like almost like being like a white belt again and like boxing and kickboxing and stuff like that was very hard to overcome, but it paid off and it's to be like a full, well-rounded mixed martial artist now, it feels very, very good and accomplishing.
I bet it does. I know for me, I can't even consider being punched in the face, and and going from jujitsu to that, I know that that's definitely a big shift. Were there some mindset shifts that you took to transition over into that sport?
Yes, definitely. So, you guys probably hear like in other sports, like people say like you need to be a dog, like you need to be tough. So like you definitely need to be a dog because the training is just you're getting beat up. You know what I mean? Like it's not like jujitsu where you could just kind of like lay back and then you might get like smushed a little bit. In MMA, you're literally getting punched every practice, and it can be like so discouraging when you go against someone who's so much better than you, and they're just like getting you with like 500 punches before you can even land one. um, so it was definitely a mindset shift. Like I left practices crying so many times when I was fighting. I was like, maybe I should just quit. But again, I had to learn to be like neutral to my training practices, right? So like, you know, if I have good training practice, keep it neutral. Keep it in the middle. Don't get too excited about it. Don't get too low about it. If I have a bad practice, don't get too low about it. Because you could have the best practices leading up to an MMA fight and you can get knocked out in a second, or you could have the worst training sessions of your life leading up to a fight and you could win a championship. So um, the training days don't necessarily matter because it's going to matter how you show up on, fight day.
I love it. I love it. To not get down on yourself so much during training so that you don't show up for the key day. I really
Yep,
like.
exactly.
Can I
Um,
ask you real quick something?
Yeah.
Is you're talking about during training and how not to get caught up in the mental side of that, but how do you handle the pressure and the adversity during the fight? And how do you stay focused in the fight?
So I always reminded myself even before fights. So like before fights, I did like a lot of like mental work, right? Like I would have affirmations that I would say to myself.
Mm,
And I would always just remind myself, like, listen, the way I stayed great, honestly, during fights was because I knew I did everything I needed to leading up to this fight, and there was not one box I didn't check. So whatever was going to happen was going to happen. And I couldn't be mad at myself saying I didn't do enough because I know I did enough. So having that like reassurance, that confidence of the preparation you have just makes a world of difference when you show up on the fight day, right? Because like, again, there was not one thing, not one stone unturned that I didn't do in my fight camp to prepare me for this. And,
mm,
at the end of the day, you kind of have to surrender the outcome because whatever's going to happen is going to happen, right? Like one punch in MMA can just hit you in the right spot and turn your lights off. So um it's just like always keeping in mind and like surrendering the outcome of fight day.
mm. Sorry, I hear you saying that the fight doesn't determine the win or the loss, doesn't determine who you are. You already know who you are, and your identity is not in the win or loss. It's in that you've done the work and you've showed up.
Exactly. Like I always say too, like you can look at the top people in it right now in any sport or even like in business, right? And you could say like they all had to take losses leading up to this point, right? Like nobody goes undefeated that long. If you stay in this long enough, you're gonna you're gonna lose no matter who you are.
Absolutely.
So you just got to take your losses as losses, take them on the chin, and you just got to keep moving on. Um, Especially with like life events too. Like I feel like just through injuries and unfortunate circumstances in general, it's just
Mm,
like when one door closes, you just got to keep opening up a new door. You can't just stop and I mean you can like sit in your like wallows for too long, but like you don't want to stay there too long. You want to just keep going, right? So I feel like that's like just a big factor too of what martial arts has taught me in general.
absolutely. Thank you for connecting that to things other than MMA, because so many of these girls are in it and some of them are not. So they're able
Gotcha.
to connect to you through what you're saying that shows where you're showing up and how what you're doing also applies to other areas. Thank you.
Yes.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of the times, we hit a failure, whether it's in business or it's in our sport or it's, in anything that we do in life, and we can get paralyzed in that failure. And then we can just play the victim card or we just quit. And I like the fact that you said, hey, like I'm gonna have a loss in this. You've already accepted the fact that there's gonna be a loss in this particular area. In every area of life, we're gonna have a loss, and it's what we do when we recover from that. Do you, when you fight, do you go back and look at your video of it to see like how could I have improved this moving forward?
Yes, absolutely. So I always just like even wins and losses, both of them. I'll look at my matches and be like, okay, like I definitely messed up here. I could have did this better. And then I'll always go back to the gym and we work on, maybe this was would have been a better option, why it would have been a better option. And I'm just very lucky that I've found people that are around me that help me get better too. As much as it is a solo sport, having the right people around you makes a difference in every aspect of life, right? Like not even just like even your friends, um, you know, and if you pick whoever you have as a partner, as a coach, it all makes a difference. So I'm just lucky that I've found people that, have a similar mindset as me.
I love it. Community is what I'm hearing. Jackie, you had yourself unmuted.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, first, Amanda, thank you for coming on. And I just kind of wanted to go back to a little bit like what Caroline was saying about just kind of those life lessons that you've learned through MMA and jiu-jitsu and martial arts. And if you can kind of touch a little more. So we just opened a gym and we've got some up and coming fighters, and just any advice you could give to these young women coming up, just kind of in the sport and like how some of these life lessons that you're learning in the gym, like how that translates to other areas of your life.
Yeah, sounds good. So I would say the first thing is if you do the sport, or even if you don't do the sport, like if you find another hobby that may suit you better, don't quit. Like just keep showing up. Even if you show up for 1 day a week, right? Like it makes all the difference. Like for example, my sister, she signed up and did jiu-jitsu with me when we were kids, right? So I was 11, she was 13 years old. She just started doing jiu-jitsu again as a 30-year-old, right? She quit. She only did it for like maybe 3 months. Um, so I like said to her, I said, Lex, you know what's really sad is that you would be a black belt now if you just did 1 day a week. Like if you would have just kept coming with me and just did 1 day a week instead of just quitting altogether, you would have been a black belt by now. So the time's gonna pass whether you do it or you don't do it. And I would say it's always better to just show up, even on the days where you don't want to show up, and get it done. Because in the long term, I think most people will always tell you that they don't regret it. You're learning a new skill, a hobby, again, anything. It just show up again, even if you don't want to do it 1 day a week. Um, Another thing I learned is that neutral thing, I think just plays such a big part, is just like the mindset of being neutral to your wins and your losses, um, is just so important because I think it just keeps you on a steady path of progression and getting to like, I'll give you an example. I like won this really big match against this girl who's like 200 and like 65 pounds, 6'2". She was ranked number one in the world, and I was in a tournament for it was 8 women's. It was like a bracket for like $10,000, right? I knew I was seeded eighth, so I knew I was going to go against the number one seed, who was this girl who was humongous. And only 2 people have beaten her before me, and they won by like a slight advantage, like a ref decision. And I won't beat her, and I like destroyed her, which was so crazy. It was such like it was probably one of the biggest upsets in jiu-jitsu. And I was so high after that win, like, you know what I mean? Like I was like, 'cause the whole stadium's going crazy. And I just like got so high to it, and I had another match after that. But by by the time my second match came, I'm like, I don't even care if I win this next match. Like I feel like I just won the whole thing. But in my mind, I'm like, I wish I would have been smart enough to know to stay more neutral and not get way overexcited for that match, because I'm like, I really should have won the next match. Um, so I just think staying neutral in wins and losses, even again in practices, your good practices, your bad practices, just makes all the difference. Um, Trying to think what else. The dog mentality goes so far. Be a dog, like constantly show up, constantly put in the hard work. Um, and again, too, like jujitsu is so hard already. And I mean, every hobby can be very hard, right? Like learning a musical instrument can be really hard. It can be very discouraging. But like once you get through that, the reward at the end, I think, is just so much greater than the suffering of you not wanting to do it to begin with, that it's always just worth showing up for.
Yeah, that's some great advice. I love that you said even if you did it 1 day a week, you would be so much better down the road than if you just totally quit. And I think a lot of us can pick up something from that, whether you're in jujitsu or you're in basketball or soccer or you're a horseback rider or mountain bike, whatever it is that you do, like 1 day a week is better than zero. I love that. I love that. So, was there a moment in your journey that someone underestimated you, in that you just flipped the script?
Yeah, so it was definitely that match. Like everyone literally thought I was going to lose. Uh, and the girl thought I was going to lose. So we had like a press conference right before that. And of course, because she's like the number one ranked, she gets special treatment, the whole nine. Um, the weight class was like 145 pounds and up. But most of us were like the next like heaviest girl was 170. I was 150, and this girl shows up conveniently late, so she didn't have to step on the scale, so everyone couldn't see her weight. So the only reason why I know her weight is because I have a friend who trained with her one time, and he's a big guy. He was literally 260 pounds, and they were making jokes about how, like, who's more muscular, right? Because she's on steroids. Like if you saw this woman, you guys would all would be like, holy crap, this woman is 100% on steroids. Um, but he like did a scale off with her and he saw her weight. It was 265. But she showed up to the weigh-ins conveniently late, so she didn't have to weigh in, so nobody got to see her weight. And I'm like, why didn't she have to weigh in? Like, I'm at the press conference with the microphone. I'm like, I don't understand why she didn't weigh in because I want the whole world to see her weight so that when I beat her tomorrow, we know the size difference. And, you know, she's calling me every name in the book, like at the press conference, just because I called her out for not weighing in. And then she was saying, you know, how she's going to beat me up the next day. And I'm not going to lie, afterwards, I was like, bad choice. Probably a bad choice considering she weighs over 100 pounds more than me. But again, luckily I have a great support system. So like, you know, my boyfriend was like, what are you worried about? He's like, again, you train so hard, you put in all the work. Like I have every, you know, ounce of faith in you. And then it was very cool because my dad texted me right before I went on and he was like, Amanda, you're going to shock the world today. And I literally did because I blew up. That's when I like blew up in the jiu-jitsu world was after that match. So it was very cool. So that was probably the time someone underestimated me for sure.
And that gives
Can
me
I?
it gives me goosebumps to hear just the support of your community and
Yes.
having, because that makes a big difference in our lives when we have people that are cheering us on and not doubting even in our moments of being able to doubt ourselves, we have people that are standing in our corner that aren't doubting us. Love
Yes,
that.
definitely.
Absolutely. I wanted to ask you, I'm sorry, I'm enjoying this immensely. You spoke to that she didn't have to weigh in. So that tells me there aren't standards that are consistent for everybody. So what would be your opinion of the current state of the women's MMA and what would you change if you could? Like, are there standards? How did that happen?
So yeah, so that was in jujitsu. So like there's no like punching or kicking in that. So that's like good. So they tend to be more lackadaisical with like that kind of treatment. Again, like the weight class was 145 and up, so she could be whatever she wanted to weigh. But I just wanted her to weigh in because they made us all weigh in. So I'm like, why does she get special treatment? And then I want to know because I'm like, I'm gonna be going against her tomorrow. I should get to know her weight, right? Like she knows mine. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, so it was just like funny too, because I'm usually not a controversial person by any means. So like my sister's on Instagram, and I'm in Austin at the time. I'm from Philly. So my family's in Philadelphia. And my sister is like scrolling on Instagram and she's like starting to see all these jujitsu posts about me calling out Gabby like the night before I'm supposed to, you know, grapple her. And my sister's like to my mom, what is Amanda doing? Amanda's like, apparently Amanda's like causing some like controversy. She's like, our Amanda is causing controversy because I'm like so not that person. I'm like, I don't even know what got me riled up about it, but um, honestly, ever since then, I like standing up for myself has been so easy because I'm like, oh, if I could do it in front of how thousands of people who are watching this, like, it's so easy just to do it to someone's face at this point.
Absolutely. So what are your goals going forward? Like, what do you hope to achieve in this arena that you've been given?
So now that I'm pregnant, I am definitely like, yeah, yeah. So now I'm pregnant. I would like to at least compete a couple more times, like as a mom, and just like, you know, just because it's like another challenge, right? Like you have to get your body back, you have to get your mind back, and I would love to just compete like a couple more times before I like hang it up completely. Um, but right now I do private lessons. I coach kids in adult classes, and like definitely you know, being able to coach people is such a rewarding aspect, right? Because one, it's like I already put in all this hard work. I've been there. I've seen a lot of it already. So getting to share the knowledge is like feels like invaluable because I'm like, why should I be holding on to all this knowledge, right? Like I need to share it with all the kids that are about to compete, all the, you know, women that just are signing up later in life, like how I can help them. And honestly, like, so like, for example, I'm like, there's this girl, she fights MMA. She's 19 and she like genuinely looks up to me. So I train with her a lot. And you know, I get to be in her corner when she fights MMA. And it gets me choked up actually. Cause I'm like, you know what I mean? Like that's the level of trust that you give someone, to be in their corner. And it's almost like being in someone's corner in life, right? Like, if someone comes to you for like advice, or like, if they need a shoulder to cry on, it's, you feel validated that you're like important to that person. And it's a good feeling, right? So I just love, being able to share what I do now.
Mm, That's awesome. I hope that these women are hearing you, because that's so much of what these women that are on this call, us older women, want for these younger girls on here. It's for them to feel like we're in their corner and that we
Yeah.
truly are here, and that Coach Witt's leading the way of us pouring into them to do exactly what you're doing on the mat. So thank you for doing that. I appreciate
Yeah.
it a lot.
Yeah. Thank you.
So that being said, ladies, if you have questions, go ahead and start raising your hands because we'd love to get y'all in here, and be selfish. Ask a question about, even if you're not in MMA or jiu-jitsu, ask a question about yourself, because Amanda has a lot of skill in terms of coaching, and just putting herself out there and having wins and having failures. Um, so on the days that you want to quit, Amanda, what keeps you going?
I would say having people like like I have people at the gym that we're like accountable for each other, right? Like, so, days I don't want to be there, if I like just look at someone, I'm just like, man, I'm not feeling it today. They'll be like, you know what? Okay, that's okay. We'll just do this today. We'll do something different. Like, just something that having, again, it always comes down to community for me, even though this is such a solo sport. You're only the only one out there at the end of the day on the mat in the cage. But in general, even in life, you're really the only one out there. But you have the community around you that, again, just supports you. So that definitely always keeps me going. And again, the rewarding feeling of just, um, I guess, like teaching people and just like seeing someone hit a move that you taught them always keeps me coming back, right? So like just sharing what I have and like seeing people utilize it is just means the world to me. So that definitely keeps me coming back too. But I always say too, like the hard, like when you're getting like smashed in jujitsu, it really is just like therapy, because you're like, okay, well, I have nothing else to worry about besides getting this person off me right now. And at the end of the day, like if I do a morning jujitsu class, like traffic, I will sit in traffic and not complain an ounce. But if I don't do jujitsu and I go and sit in traffic, I am so angry. So I think it's just realizing what I get out of it is always going to be more beneficial to my everyday life than not doing it at all.
Love it. A little bit of mat therapy. I don't do jujitsu, but I know that after some of my harder workouts, it's one of the things I like to come home and journal about. Like, what did I learn about myself today? Not necessarily about the sport that I'm doing, but what did I learn about me? And I 100% agree with you. After a strong workout like that, it feels like you can take on your day better than the days that you don't. I love that.
Yes, exactly. Even like lifting and stuff. Like I love lifting. Like feeling strong is so important to me. Especially with like the health benefits nowadays. It shows like about aging and stuff like that. Like just getting out and lifting. But there's nothing like physical exertion to, get your mind right. And I think, I feel like as a society now, we're more people are leaning into that. But like I've always leaned into that. Like for the longest time, like I know so many people that had anxiety, depression, and I was just always so active growing up that I feel like that negated it for so long, just because, again, just being so active, constantly exerting your body, pushing yourself at the end of the day will always make you less anxious because you feel accomplished. You can't feel anxious when you just accomplish something very hard, right? So I think even just exercising in general is just so important for women. Um, just getting away from like the social media for a bit, getting in a hard workout, and getting your mind right would definitely help.
For sure. I can support that 100%. Just get out and move your body. It's the best thing that we can do for sure.
Yep.
So I love right now with this question the fact that you're pregnant, because to me it's one of the most feminine things that we can do. Um, what does it mean to you to be both powerful and feminine?
I love this. Like I'm so proud. Like it's funny because I'll hear girls be like, I hate being a woman. I'm like, I love being a woman. I think being a woman is the coolest thing. I'm like, you mean I can grow a full child? I can grow a full human and be strong. Like, what more can you ask for? But it just means the world to me, honestly. I was always a tomboy growing up. So I feel like I didn't appreciate it until a little bit later. But I was always empowered by the fact that like I would go to these tournaments as a kid, right? And I'd be the only girl, and I would, come in first in a division of all boys. Like people in when I competed as a kid, people knew me as a girl that just beat boys. They would be like, "Oh my god!" Like I would walk past people and they'd be like, "Oh my god, that girl is so good." So it was very empowering to be like, "You're a girl. You're supposed to be quote unquote weaker, but you're out here beating boys, which is so cool." But I just love that I can emotionally connect with people as well as physically connect with people. Sometimes guys aren't as good emotionally with their emotional intelligence as women are. Not all, but some. And I love that I feel like I have like the best of both worlds, right? Like I can be physically active, physically strong, and emotionally intelligent when it comes to, competing or everyday life.
I think sometimes there's this pressure to pick one or the other instead of just embracing the fact that we can be both at the same time.
Absolutely. Yes, exactly. I'm like, I love that I can do both. But that's the coolest thing. Like talk about like, there's these studies that women are better at multitasking, right? So I'm like, yes, this is it. This is it right here. Emotional intelligence and physical skill. So it's pretty awesome.
So you said that with Isabel, I want you to ask a question. Go ahead.
Sorry. Okay, so I was thinking of how to put this one, and it might not make sense because I haven't like fully thought it out. But with fighting, I know like you've obviously like won a lot of matches. Was there ever one that you lost? And how did you like not deal with it, but how was it like how do you like other people like reacting to it almost? Because I feel like when I don't do good at something, the first thing I'm instantly worried about is like other people and how they'll be reacting and like what I can do to like fix it and like help them. But how do you like deal with like either loss or like that type of
I gotcha.
type
So
of
I
fight?
definitely, as a kid, I definitely took loss way harder. Um, and also I had a dad, like as supportive as my dad is about jujitsu, my dad was also one of those parents that you talk about who like was so hard on their kids that like people would be like, yo, what is wrong with that guy?
Yeah.
So I had a dad, like if I would lose a match, like I could lose to the most muscular kid and he would be like arms folded behind the ref's table and like shaking his head in disappointment. So that being said, he's way calmer now, but I had a hard upbringing with, when I did lose, I would get yelled at. So, nowadays I always just look at it like, listen, I'm already like thinking of it like short-term memory. That short-term memory, I lost that match. We're moving past it. I also hate when people react because when people react to your loss, right? It's almost like they're like sympathetic. And like I'm not necessarily always like sad about a loss, right? Like if I knew I worked hard in that match and I did what I could, like what am I gonna be mad about, right? That person was just better than me that day. Or like even in life, like if someone beat me out of a deal or something like that, like they were better than me that day. I just have to be better the next day. So um it does suck when you have people though that are in your like support system and they kind of like recognize your loss, but they're like trying to be like they're almost like sad for you. And I'm like, I don't want you to be sad for me.
Yeah.
Like I just want to, we're going to move past this. I'm like, I'm just going to show up the next day and try to be better. So I think it's just always, again, about putting one foot in front of the other and not harping on a loss in general. Because I definitely used to do that and it drives you crazy. It's not worth the stress or the annoyance from other people. So you just got to keep moving forward is what I would say. But it definitely took me time. I wouldn't say it was like an overnight thing by any means. I think it came with age too. As you get older, I think you're like, I don't give a crap attitude gets a little bit stronger.
I need
Like,
that.
yes, yes. And
Definitely something I need.
genuinely, like I'm 28 years old and I feel like I just got this. I don't give a crap what anyone thinks attitude. So I feel like some of it comes with age and some of it just comes with, try and get your mindset right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think that's something that we could definitely teach younger women is how to bounce quicker and to realize that this doesn't define who you are. The loss doesn't define who you are. And I can remember being younger and letting things like just affect me so much worse than, like you said, I think age helps us to kind of get over that hump. And there's got to be a way for us to show these young women that we can bounce.
Absolutely. I think it's just like a narrow focus, right? Like when you're younger, I feel like you have this like tunnel vision almost, and you don't see the big picture of everything. And then as you get older, like your vision kind of just expands and you can kind of see the bigger picture of it all. And I think that's what it comes down to at the end of the day.
Absolutely. So you said at the beginning of our call that you had to stop MMA because of an injury. Would you mind sharing with us what happened?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I just won my second MMA fight, and this MMA fight was for a contract with this really big promotion that you fight for $1 million. So it's like a tournament. I'm like, great. I'm in this tournament now. I have such a good chance of winning it. And I felt like everything I've waited for since I was 13 years old was like finally just coming together. And my next fight was like in 2 months. It was going to be in Vegas, and each state for MMA requires different medicals to be done. And Nevada requires an MRI of your head and an MRA of your head, of your brain. An MRA looks at like the arteries and blood vessels in your brain, and they found an aneurysm that's in like a really bad area, and it's super small. It's literally like 2 millimeters big. Okay, so I get this call that they're like, you'll never get cleared. If it dislodges, you're either going blind or you're dying. Um, so they're like, no one's gonna clear you to fight. So I had to drop out of this, I had to drop out of professional MMA, which is what I always had this goal set for. I literally did everything I ever could possibly train for. Like as a kid, I never partied. Like, as a teenager, young 20-year-old, never partied, wasn't a big drinker. I did everything right. And I finally get here and it's just like taken away from me. And I was like devastated, hysterical, unconsolable for like months. My family on top of it too was also inconsolable because they've seen all the work I've put in, right? Like I talk about community, and that's like one of the great things about this community, right? Is like people see what you're not doing and what you are doing. So, you would have thought someone died in my family. Like that, that's how like everyone was reacting. Like my parents are crying, my siblings are crying, I'm crying. Um, and I had to deal with like this fact that I wrapped up my whole life in this identity of being a professional fighter, and it just got taken away from me. And now I'm just Amanda now. And reality, that's so dramatic. I'm not just Amanda, right? But that's what it felt like to me at the time. So I'm like, going through months and just again, everyone's just looking at you with full pity, which doesn't help at all. And I had one person, I went to like this strength and conditioning guy, and I like walked in after like a month of like taking a time off because I'm like, I don't want to compete in jiu-jitsu anymore. I'm done with everything. Like maybe I'll just like do something else. I'll find something else. But a month after that, I went to the strength and conditioning guy, and he didn't say anything to me. He didn't pity me. He like just put me right to work. And then after the workout, he's like, "So how are you feeling?" I'm like, "You have no idea how much that meant to me that you just didn't even recognize it." Because I'm like, I just needed that. I needed someone to just not put any recognition on it and just put me to work. And it felt so good. And again, community, he's talking to me, and making me feel better about the situation. But again, it's just like something you have to eventually learn to accept as no one's going to accept it for you. Nobody, the world's not going to stop for you because your dream's taken away. You just have to keep going, right? So talking about like if one door closes, another door is opening somewhere. Um, so I just, went back to jiu-jitsu. I just started teaching more, and honestly, I'll never probably get over it. but you learn to live with it, right? And again, it's just when your identity is wrapped around something so hard, it's like just devastating when it's taken away, because part of you feels like you like died a little bit. But you know, staying involved, I think, was what really helped me. So, helping this 19-year-old who's an MMA fighter, like she'll probably be in the UFC, which is like the top level you can get. If she just stays the course, she's gonna make it. So, being able to be in her corner and help her along the way, it just means like the world to me. And I always make jokes. I'm like, if you get to the UFC, you gotta let me let me be in your corner for one fight. And she's like, of course. But and like getting other people to accomplish their goals, it does mean the world. And again, it's just something you just got to keep moving forward.
I think there's times like this that can be a defining moment for you, that you just, I mean, you literally said, I don't want to do any of it anymore. And then you realized, hold on, because I think our feelings are very important, and they're definitely, I think feelings are definitely also not facts. So we can feel like, hey, I'm never going to do this again, and I'm still going to do this thing. Um, and being able to realize, like, in those moments that, okay, this was what I trained for since I was a little girl. This is what I wanted to do. And now it's not a reality anymore. And now it's time for the pivot. And I love the fact that you're like now going, okay, I want to be able to support other women to be able to chase after this dream. And you're pivoting into being a mother, which is definitely going to have some identity for you. At being a mother of 5 children, that it definitely is one of the best things I've ever done in my life. Now, it's not my whole identity, it's some, but I like to hear that you're pivoting and you're still like, yes, I'm still devastated by this. I'm still sad by this, but I didn't just face plant and stay there.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I always, well, it's funny because I always tell people, I'm like, if they lose something, I'm like, don't be bitter, get better, right? So I'm like, that's exactly the mindset. I'm like, I'm telling other people this. I'm like, I got to do the same thing, right? Like, I can't be a hypocrite. So, yeah. So it's all about just again, like, what else can I be better in if I can't do exactly what I want to do?
Love that. Don't get bitter, get better. So if there are other young women listening to this right now and who feel out of place and like maybe she's too much or she's not enough, what would you say to her?
I would say find your people. Find your people. And honestly, again, stay neutral to that idea, because at the end of the day, you're gonna find your place in this world, and it all works out. It all works its way out. That's what I tell people. Um, you'll always find happiness and stuff, and you'll have the rainy days, but again, it's just everything will always work out at the end of the day. So there's no reason to feel a type of way about the type of person you are, because again, you're still growing, we're all evolving. No matter what age you are, you're evolving in some way or another. So definitely just keep evolving.
Love it. Caroline, did you have something else?
Well, I was going to say something to that about the identity thing, 'cause so much of what you have said, I'm sorry, she is, if you're not here, Amanda, I'm so sorry, that you have spoken. um, I'm just trying to merge it all together, because I feel like so many of our girls today feel like they can't be feminine and masculine at the same time. And if they are, they get placed in these camps that maybe they don't identify with. And so I was just wondering, like, how did you face that and navigate that where you were able to fully be all of you without allowing people to speak who you were or choose that for you? Like, how did you stay your identity while other people might have been speaking other things over you? And then how did you, um, I don't know, answer that right this second. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, you're good. I feel like I just always had a vessel to put um like my thing, like my personality in and stuff like that. So I think finding hobbies that help with how you identify, right? Like even something as simple as like, okay, we're in a male dominated sport and all of the uniforms are usually like, you know they're like just dark colors and stuff like that. Like I can wear a pink rash guard. So like as a teenager, all I competed in was this bright neon pink that you could not miss me on the mat or in a group of people, um, rash guard. So that like, you know, I just felt like I let everyone know, like, yes, I am a female. I am on this mat as a girl in a male dominated sport. So I think, you know, finding your hobby and then finding, little ways to help you show your personality through, you know, your hobby is important. And I was lucky that I always had a vessel to do that.
That's awesome. I love that you were able to be in that male arena and then show your feminine so loudly and proudly, and that you felt confident in that. That speaks volumes. I hope these girls are hearing all of that. And what is it that you are most looking forward to as a mom, knowing that your son or daughter is probably going to face some of this too? Like what are you thinking around that?
So with my parents, like my parents were great parents, don't get me wrong, but I feel like I saw a lot of things that I don't want to do as a parent through my parents. And I think that is just a strong, like, you know, how my dad was so hard on me, or like different situations where I just, you know, I was like, I'll never raise my kid like that. So I'm very excited to be able to, you know, go into parenthood and learn from things that I've seen, you know, my parents do, my aunts and uncles do, that I don't want to do. And I think I'm very excited just to implement the things that are kind of like a little bit opposite of how I was raised. Um, Again, too, just like that's probably the biggest example is just how to coach someone, how to be supportive of someone when they're, you know, growing and they're a young child. I think it's just super important. So I will never be mad at my dad for how hard he was on me, because I know it also helped me get where I am today. But again, just in hindsight, like I would never be that hard on my child as a parent.
Yeah, and that's awesome that you recognize the things you want to repeat and the things you don't want to repeat, because this is your bloodline and you get to create how your name moves forward. So that's
Yes.
powerful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
I always like to say, you know, as a parent, our kids are not born with instruction manuals. And we get to create it with them. And having parents, you know, we all have had parents. It's like, okay, here are some of the things that I want to take in how my parents did, what worked for me, and there were some things that didn't work for me, and changing it up. And I've told my kids this because I have 4 adult kids now and one that's still 10. But hey, I messed things up along the way too, and I hope you take the things that worked for you and you go make things that work for your families too. Um, but man, this has been a great call, Amanda. Thank you so much for being here today. Ladies, I don't know if anybody else has a question before we let Amanda out of here. I know maybe y'all were thinking of something and well, Amanda, how can we first of all, where can we find you? So that we can follow what's going on with you.
Yep. So my Instagram is at Amanda Leve _ MMA. I would say I'm not a big social media poster, but I do post on there occasionally. So if you guys want to give me a follow, if you guys ever have a question, like please feel free to, you know, reach out, shoot me a message. I'll be so happy to answer. Um, and especially if you guys do jiu-jitsu, if you guys legit have any questions about jiu-jitsu, the ones that do train, 100%. If you have a question on a move or anything like that, I'm your girl. So even life questions for those adults. But yeah, that's the only place I'm at right now. So
Right. And how can we support you as your Apogee family here?
oh, you know what? By following, honestly. So hopefully, you know, I have a smooth pregnancy and everything goes good. And hopefully I'll be back competing. So if I'm back competing and you guys, you know, see me post about it, if you guys, you know, watch it or comment on my, you know, post, it's all very helpful. So that would be great.
Well, thank you for being here. I'm going to keep these ladies on for a little debrief after.
Sounds good. Thank you very much for having me. It was nice meeting you all.
All right, you
Thank
too.
you.
Bye.